Hi, could I look any more pale? Whatever, this is me. Hi, welcome to Ange's Anything Show. Welcome to my classroom, bitches. The classroom of Ange. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not good at math. Certainly don't know shit about science. I'm not very up on my geography. And really the only thing that I'm good at is, like, words, I guess. Like, if you're like me, halfway decent at reading and writing, then you've probably spent a lot of your life noticing typos or mistakes or expressions that people use that don't actually make sense or that you know are not correct. I mean, I just ignore them. I'm not gonna go around correcting all my friends, like that's annoying. But over the years, there have been some that really stand out to me that I feel like people might not realize are wrong. So I wanna tell you, this isn't stuff like the correct form of you're and you are or there and there. It's more like expressions, phrases, spellings that are just totally wrong. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is more of a punctuation thing, and I'm sure we've all seen this. It is the misuse of the semicolon. A semicolon is used in a sentence to break apart like two independent clauses in the sentence. So an example would be, I have a big test tomorrow, I can't go out tonight. So you would put a semicolon in between those two statements. But you could just as well put a period in between those two statements and the sentence would work. So if you're ever wondering if you should use a semicolon, just think, if I replace the semicolon with a period, does it still make sense? And if it doesn't, then don't fucking use a semicolon. Next thing I want to talk about is something that I understand why people do this, but it's not right. It's when you capitalize seasons. Seasons are not capitalized. I get why people would think they're proper nouns, because it's like, winter is coming. Winter, spring, summer, fall, these are seasons, don't capitalize them at all. The next thing that annoys me is when people misuse the word anxious, specifically when they say that they are anxiously awaiting something like exciting. So like, you could be anxiously awaiting a trip to the doctor for like a pap smear, sure. But people will often say it like, oh, I'm anxiously awaiting my trip to Disneyland. Why would you be anxious about that? Well, there are really long lines. Another expression people say that really is over-exaggerate. When you exaggerate, you're already like overstating the story or your opinion or whatever it is. Over-exaggerating, what are you, just straight up fucking lying? Like, you can't really over-exaggerate. That would just be like really exaggerating. You're not over-exaggerating. This next one, I don't fault people for misusing it because I just learned the correct way to say this like a few years ago. Whether or not. To say whether or not, here I come, you can't hide. The word whether, W-H-E-T-H-E-R, actually already means this or that, like whether this, whether that. So whether on its own kind of already indicates that there's a choice, right? So if you say whether or not, it's like saying whether or not or not. Oh, it's not whether or not, here I come, it's ready or not. Whether I come, you can't hide. That's how you would say it if the lyric was even that. Another thing that really annoys me is when people make up words, like all of a sudden they're just in the lexicon and everyone's using them. Such as, irregardless. What the fuck does that word even mean? Boughten. Now I understand why people say boughten and why it slips out, but it's not a word, the word is bought. He bought, she bought, not he boughten. I could care less. The actual expression is, I couldn't care less. I could not care less. If you could care less, that means that you like actually care, like there's room for you to not care. But if you couldn't care less, you're literally at the bottom of your threshold of caring, like you give absolutely no shits. So if you're using that to insult somebody or like in a fight, just make sure you're using it correctly. Because you don't want them to kind of get you on the grammar, you know? That's like my tool. Like if I have no other strategies left in a fight, and like someone says something incorrectly, I'll just be like, well, at least I know grammar. Am I immature? Yeah, I am. We're almost done. Okay, there's two left, and I think these are gonna blow your mind. This next one is just the general overuse of commas. If you're writing a sentence and you are using a lot of commas, take a step back, read it out loud without the commas. When people read stuff, they're gonna naturally put those beats in. You don't have to put a comma in every single time you speak with the comma, you know what I mean? It's like when a writer writes a script and he puts like stage directions in for the actor. It's like the actor's gonna do their acting thing, like they don't need your stage directions. Like you can't tell them like, now look sad. It's like they're gonna do that naturally when they like read the line. And finally, this I see all the time. Decades, like the 80s and the 90s, do not have an apostrophe after them. like 90 apostrophe S, 90s, there's no apostrophe there. Unless it's like very clearly a possessive, you should never put an apostrophe there. I think the reason people put apostrophes there is because they think that it's like a contraction, like the 90s. But a contraction, like an apostrophe in a contraction, is used when you are actually like making an abbreviation of a word. So like in the word can't, the apostrophe between the N and the T is replacing cannot, is replacing the word not. So you're not really replacing anything at the end of the 90s. The apostrophe should go at the beginning. Apostrophe 90s. Because you're contracting the 19. So that's that. I don't know. I feel like this maybe was more of like a lecture, but you are in my classroom, so if you don't like it, go to the principal's office. Even if you take just a few of these tips and it helps you remember, going forward, you're gonna look smarter than the next guy. I don't want to contribute to the blogosphere dumbing down of society. That's my story. Thank you for watching this episode of Angel's Anything Show. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. I hope this video doesn't come off as patronizing. Actually, I don't fucking care. You guys need to learn this shit.